Good morning, traders and investors. This is Joel Elconin doing a solo edition of Benzinga's pre-market prep today. I hope you guys are all tuned in here. And I'll do my best here without Dennis. Let's start out here with the S&P 500 futures are trading down $1 here at 2506.75. Let me do a little technical analysis in the S&Ps before we move on. The all-time high in the index was made yesterday at 2509.25. Our all-time closing high, 2507.75. That turns out to be the high of the session. Pre-market low at 2505.50. So only a 2.25 point range overnight. So let's look for a breakout of either above that pre-market high or pre-market low. Very, very small range. Let's take a look at the crude market. Crude oil, we were looking at the $53 just 2 days ago. Let's look at the daily chart. You had a high just under 53. Now coming down to the lower 51 handle, folks. Yesterday's low in the crude oil market is right in the vicinity of where we're trading right now, perhaps a double bottom in crude. Just above 51. Yesterday's low in crude was at, let me pull up my data window here. Yesterday's low in crude, 51.22. The current low, 51.29, folks. That's where we broke out from, the $51 area. So falling, old resistance, new support. Let's look at the gold market. Gold here is trading up 7 cents at 1283.90 on the daily. Ooh, that could be a head and shoulders top, but we did find support at 1280 yesterday. Also found support at 1280 earlier in August here. So if you're leaning on gold and a swing trade, keep a close eye on 1289.40. All right, let's get to the news here. And ROKU IPO, and I've been informed on the desk that this is pretty much a Netflix knockoff here. Really good day, only 1 day of trading here. Let's see if we can bring up a 15-minute chart. It opened at the higher end of its range and ended just going up all day. Made an all-time high at 26.62 with an all-time closing high of 25, or let's go to the daily here in ROKU. That doesn't look good at all. We're trading up above yesterday's high at 23.50. So if you're looking for a gap fill in ROKU, you need to come down. Priced at its higher end of its range and just kept on going. So a lot of optimism here for ROKU. ROKU. Let me pull up our only earnings stock here that we're going to talk about, and that's KB Homes, KBH, home builder. Let me pull up the pre-market trading. Went off the board at 22.22 yesterday. That was a high of the session. Let's see where it's trading in pre-market. Added $1. That's a big, big move for a home builder. Must have been some pretty good numbers out of KB Homes. Let me bring up those exact numbers for you. KB Homes earnings. It was an earnings beat, and they beat by 4 cents, 51 cents versus 47 cents. And revenues beat as well. Street estimate at $1.12 billion, and they came in at $1.144 billion. So nice pop here, only 12 cents off the high of the session. Let's look at the dailies to see if we can find some further resistance of KB Homes. Keep in mind, folks, this is a big move for KB Homes. We haven't been in the 23 handle since mid-August. If you're looking for a further target on the upside, 23.55, 23.59. Those were the highs from August 16th and 17th. So potential double top there. To look at. Big move. Do have some volume moving KB Homes, but keep in mind, folks, the stock usually trades 3-4 million shares a day, so it's going to take quite a bit to get it to open at this level. Maybe even some sellers at 23. Moving on to some other news that we have. Our guest coming up at 8:35 is going to be Phil Davis. He's the founder of Phil's Stock World. So we'll tune in with Phil. But since we don't have much on the ratings front, let's just talk about VERI because we do have a price change in that one. Mr. Left put this one to bed yesterday. 2-for-1 stock split hit 74.92 and made a low yesterday. VERI has to be the most volatile stock of this year. Yesterday's low 36 even, 36.88 low. Let's see how it's doing in the pre-market trading. Trading up at 40.90. Now, the reason this is trading up at 40.90 is analysts went to work on this stock. It's about time. We haven't heard a lot of analyst talk on this issue. Veritone, let's see here. Price target raise here. I thought it was a price target raise to 62. I'm going to have to get you the firm that did that. Talked about 41.60 yesterday. That's still kind of my number. Cut through it yesterday, but 41.60 represents the 50% retracement of this move from 776 up to 74.92. Maybe looking for a few days of consolidation before we get our next move in Veritone. All right. It is 8:34 here. We do have a guest. We are going to take a quick break, and we're going to bring on Phil Davis of Phil's Stock World. Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep, brought to you by Benzinga Pro. I'm your co-host, Joel L. Connon, and Dennis, we're going to try and bring him in, but we got Phil Davis on the line of Phil's Stock World. Phil, how you doing on this end of September, end of the quarter here today?
That's right. It's a big end of quarter day with expirations and everything going on with the things rolling over. It's very exciting.
Well, how come we got a 2-point range in the S&Ps, Phil? Are we gonna have some action later on?
No, they already jammed it up. Are you kidding me? It's all about maintaining today. It's just about holding the level they're at. You know, you just want to print that to the brochure so the Goldman Sachs guys can go out next quarter and show everybody how amazing the market is and why you should put all your cash into it. That's the whole point of the end of quarter window dressing, is so that they can print these brochures that show the incredible gains in the market, and this is why this is the best place to put your money.
And you don't agree?
I don't. At these prices, usually not. Look, it's not like you can't make money, and frankly, I mean, we have a ton of money in long positions.
Correct.
But we also have, we take 1/3, in fact, we take 1/3 of our gains from our longs and put them into hedges at this point. We're sacrificing 1/3 of our upside to make sure that we don't have a downside. And that's the point of credibility in the market.
Okay, so your hedges now. If you're buying puts and the market goes nowhere, then you're losing the premium. So, what are you doing? Are you selling some calls or using some of the ETFs as your short positions? How are you hedging?
Yeah, we use some spread. I just want to be clear though. It's very important. We talk about our short-term hedges, and people think that like we're bearish. We're not really bearish. We're just protecting our gains. Like last time I was on your show, for example, we talked about limited brands. It was my favorite long, right?
Correct.
And they popped since the last time since we were on the show, and the spread we had was what was it? Oh yeah, I know what it was. It was we were selling puts to pay for the spread. So we sold the 2019 $30 puts for $420, 5 of them. Then we bought 10 long spreads, the 2019 35 47.50 spread, and that netted in for $370.
Correct.
And so the net on the whole trade though was $1,600. Now it's only been a month. That was Eclipse Day that I was on your show. In fact, I remember that. So in a month, that trade is now up to $26.25. I'm sorry, the net of the trade now is $42.25. It's up $2,625 in a month, 164%. So I just want to be clear that, first of all, I want to be clear that your fans should be like really into these kind of trades. Second of all, I want to be clear though that we're taking, in other words, when we make that kind of money in a month, 164% in a month, we take 50% of that money of the upside. So in other words, out of $26.25 we made off our $1,600 investment, we're going to take about $600 or so and put it into a hedge. And that hedge is going to pay us 3-to-1, $1,800 on the way down.
What made you
lose it? It's just we're only losing a portion of what we gain.
So what made you like that stock, Phil? I mean, the retailers have been getting killed. They had a couple gap down, another gap down, finally made a low at 35. And then you could see it made a bunch of lows at 36. Was it something you saw on the technicals or something you saw on the fundamentals, balance sheet? What?
It's fundamental. We're not technical traders at all. I'm not. I mean, some of my guys are, but I mean, me personally could care less about technicals. It's a bunch of chicken scratch as far as I'm concerned. I'm a pure fundamentalist, and it was really a matter of valuation. I didn't know. We took 2019 for the spread. I didn't know it was going to pop like the day after I talked to you. But it actually didn't. It actually laid around for a little while, and then it took off in the beginning of September. But the fact is, it was just when something is that undervalued and such a bargain, and they have such a, and the backstory, that's when we like to get something, because the way we hedge our position, don't forget, we sold the $30 puts when the stock was at 36. So that's already 20% below the current price. And then we're selling the puts for $4, which gives us another 10% off. So our worst case is getting a 30% discount on the assignment. That's how we go into the spread, after we think the thing's already a discount. That's how I teach my guys how to play the market. Buy at tremendous discounts if you buy at all. And otherwise, you can use these spreads to leverage your upside tremendously.
What would have been like worst case scenario in that one? For
the worst case scenario would have been having 500 shares of LB assigned to you at $30. So for $15,000, you would have owned $15,000 worth of LB. But the upside on this trade is $10,400. If we let this thing play out, this is a $12,500 spread that we paid $1,600 for. So even though it's currently up $2,600 in just a month, still has a long way to go. The spread is still going to be hugely profitable, and all LB has to do is hit 47.50 next year.
And how much money now would you need in an account? How did you talk about putting on? What kind of size did you put on?
Okay. This spread, we sold the $30 puts. That obligates you to buy 500 shares. We sold 5 $30 puts. That obligates you to buy 500 shares of LB for $30. For that, we got paid $420.
Okay.
So $2,100 goes into our hands in exchange for us agreeing to buy LB at $30. So that's step number one. Now we take that cash, and so even if you're in a portfolio, even if you're in an IRA account, you have full margin. Your margin's $15,000 on the spread.
Okay. So that's per one lot then, right? Per one
set.
Okay, per one set. Okay, because these are good strategies. The only reason I'm bringing up, Phil, is that this is something that you need is several $1,000s in the account to do per trade, right?
Oh yeah, we're not penny stock people. I mean, most of my guys are high net worth traders. I mean, we're running a site. We teach people how to we teach hedge fund managers how to trade. So it's not really about like one lot or this or that.
Okay.
You can, of course, do if you do. You can cut the position down to by 80% to one contract on the short, and then your obligation would drop to $1,500.
Okay.
So a person with $1,500 could have still made 164%.
Better than a sharp stick in the eye, right?
Yeah, if you make that 12 months in a row, you won't have a small account anymore.
That's true.
That's how we like to play. But like I said, though, you can't be greedy because you have to take. These are very aggressive trades, and if you want to protect and lock in your gains, you have to proactively take a portion of these crazy gains. And if you want to stick with it, if you want to cash it, great, cash it. But if you don't want to cash it, don't be a fool. These gains can evaporate as fast as they come in a bad market turn. So you want to take about a third of what you make and put it into hedges.
What else do you got? Anything else on your buy radar here?
I got tons of stuff.
All right, Phil. Well, let's Let's hear it. What else do you got on the buy radar for us today?
All right. Well, let's talk about something first. Let's talk about a hedge. TZA, I like for a hedge. That's the Russell. You know how the Russell's kind of exploded?
Yes, sir.
And the Russell's up 30% since Trump got elected. That's a lot.
Yep, it sure is.
It's all based on the tax thing. People think they have a tax advantage and so on and so forth. So for TZA to hedge into the next 2 months, I like the November $12 calls. TZA is currently at $13.75, but I like the November 12 calls for $1.95. And as a spread, you sell the 14 calls for $70, and that puts you $1.25 into a $2 spread that's basically in the money. So that spread, if the Russell even noses down a tiny bit, is going to make you 75 cents on 125, which is what, like 60%. So a simple hedge like that. But then you could offset the cost of the hedge by selling something like puts, like the same way we sold those LB puts. You just pick something you don't mind buying if the market does tank, and then you sell some puts against it to raise the cash, and then you can go in for a no-cost spread that's going to pay you, quite a lot of money.
All right, so you're using the options. How is the liquidity in those? And that's the Drexion shares, small cap, bear 3 times index. Those are
very liquid. The TZA, the SQQQ, which is the Nasdaq ultra short. These are ultra shorts. DXD is the Dow ultra short, and I'm missing one. SDS is the S&P ultra short. Those four are the most liquid of the index shorting options.
Okay.
And they're easy to get in and out of. They don't have a wide spread, so you don't get killed every time you make a move on them. Those are all important factors. This is all stuff that we try to teach our members, like how it's not just like buying options, selling options. You have to understand how it functions. Otherwise you're just sort of like, you're almost like a bystander. It's like betting on horses if you don't understand what's going on.
All right, so I know you like to go long stocks and short stocks here, and I know there's got to be a couple on your radar. Why don't we try and identify a couple short opportunities, and then how you're utilizing the options market to limit your risk?
Well, you want a short one, or you want a long one?
I'm looking for some of your shorts.
Oh, some of the shorts. Well, that's my biggest short. That's an index hedge.
Okay.
And here, I'll tell you the short and long. So let's say we buy 50 of those, right? So 50 of those things is going to cost you $97.50 for the November 12 calls to buy 50. And if you sell 50 of the November 14 calls, that's going to net you back $3,500. And then let's pick a stock like Apple. And in Apple, really now again, it's got to be a stock you absolutely do want to own. But if you pick a stock like Apple and you sell the 2020 $130 put, so the question number one is, do you want to own Apple for $130 in 2020? And if the answer is yes, and if you have the money to put aside in your portfolio for that, then, especially if it's sitting around in cash doing nothing, then why not, right? If you sell if you sell 5 of the 2020 130 puts, those are $11.20. You collect $5,600 for that. That nets you into the spread, which is a $10,000 spread for $650. So now understand what you're doing though. You're long on Apple, but you're short on the Russell in the short term. So you could actually get paid twice, because if the Russell dips even a tiny bit, you're going to make your money on the spread, $10,000. And then if Apple doesn't fail 130, you're going to be free and clear with the $10,000, and you win on both ends. That's the kind of trades we like to set up, because that way you're hedging, but your cost of your hedge is negligible, but you're still giving yourself some massive protection. Like I said, we made on that, on the spread we just talked about, on the LV spread, we made $2,600. That spread, using $650 worth of cash, protects us for a $10,000 drop.
All right, and what about just, I understand that spread and doing that and the hedging with Apple. Is there any stocks out there? I know last time you were on, you were pretty bearish. Tesla, I don't know how that trade worked out for you.
Did we have I don't think we had a trade for that. I think at the time I said it wasn't high enough at my target to short.
Okay.
But afterwards it hit our target, which was 380 for shorting. And it since has come back. It's now back to 340. And it's a little. I wouldn't pick Tesla for the short right now, because it's just they're coming into they're going to be announcing that truck, which is a load of BS as far as like ever having an impact on the company. But they're going to announce it, and people are going to get excited again. But when they flash up, that might be a good time to short them again.
How did you come up with a 380 target in Tesla? There's a certain point at which the valuation becomes so ridiculous. I'll tell you what the number was. So it's based on the target's based like on the market cap and the valuation of an issue.
Yeah, because at that point you're hitting 10% more than you're hitting like almost $65 billion in market cap. It's just an absolutely ridiculous number that you're getting to. They're also, it's just the same. There's the same amount of money. If you don't have more interest, if every day your volume. If you look at Tesla volume-wise, this is a good trick if you want to figure out where something's going to top out. Their volume-wise ranges from 3 million a day to 7 million on a very active day. So you look at the top volume range of 7 million. Say that's really, other than an earnings announcement, that's pretty much where they peak out in volume.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at how much money that's going to generate, then you figure out how much the flow is in and out and what the net balance of the stock is. And it can tell you, when you start, when you look at $65 billion needs to be sustained, it starts getting really expensive. And even if you're trading 7 million times 339, that's only $2 billion worth of trading in a day of Tesla stock. So how are you going to move the needle at $65 billion when you're trading only $2 billion worth of shares, which is what, 3% of the shares, back and forth. And the net of those, I mean, half the people buying, half the people selling. The net imbalance is going to be at most a couple of $100 million. It's so insignificant that so you start saying, well, even at a high volume level, you just don't have enough to really move the needle on the stock.
Great point. I just want to move on here. You're talking about Tesla here, and GM has made a nice move. Now, I know there's a slower moving stock. The party got started earlier in the week when Deutsche Bank came out and said basically that they think they're going to be the leader in driverless cars. The stock's been ignored for a long time and had to gap a go now, just holding over 40. So for those shorting the stock looking for it to come in off that upgrade, certainly hasn't happened yet. Nice dividend. Any thoughts on the Detroit auto manufacturers, General Motors and Ford?
Yeah, I like GM, but we own GM. We own Ford also. But GM, as far as I'm concerned, GM's had its value realization more so than Ford. And another thing I like about Ford is it's a cheap stock as far as dollar wise. And when you're in the low, when you're into like the tens in a stock's price, even though stock price is not value, it has nothing to do with each other. The bottom line is though, when you're playing options, it does have a lot to do with it because you can get way better multiples.
Leverage. Yep.
Trading a low price stock.
All right, Phil, before I let you go, I just got to ask you about all these tops and the S&P's been, doing technical analysis on it for quite some time. And I don't think I've ever seen a period here. Let me pull up the dailies and just going back over, let's say the last, I don't know how far do I need to go back here. Going back, this is to the middle of September, right? And you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Basically, you've had 10 highs in the last 15 sessions within a 2 or 3 point range here. You just think that's but it's just coincidental that it's after a triple witch expiration, that it's at the end of the quarter, because it's almost like you have an unlimited amount of sellers at that level, and that even if it goes up just a little bit more, there's no sellers here. Is this also around it's right around a nice round number of 2,500, right? We've danced around 2,200, 2,300, 2,400. It looks like, do I want to use the term hard top in the market here? Or what do you see in this consolidation and series of highs in the same area?
Well, I would use that term. I think honestly, there's a lot of effort being put into sustaining 2,500 again, so they can print their brochures and attract more money into the market. And I think the volume is so low. If you look at the volume of the last 2 weeks worth of trading, we've had days that have been more than like a single week of trading. We're averaging on SPY. If you look at SPY, because anybody can look at that volume very easily. If you look at SPY's historical volume, we have only broken 60 million shares traded once in the last 2 weeks. And that's crazy. That's something that averages 120 million shares a day. And we're at half volume for 2 weeks. So, yeah, when there's very low volume, the money the Fed puts into the market, and they're still putting money into the market, they're just tapering it off very slowly. The money the Fed puts into the market, the money the ECB puts into the market, the money the Bank of Japan puts into the market, it overwhelms anything but heavy selling. So you don't have to have actual interest in the market for it to go up. Up is its default setting. And what you're saying, you're dead right, because you're saying, yeah, there is heavy selling at the 2,500 level, though, because they can't push it over it. And that's true. There are funds who are cashing out. And this is, by the way, the sneaky way that the Fed transfers money to the funds, because the Fed gives the banks money, the banks buy the ETFs buy every single stock on the market, and the hedge funds get to cash out all the crap that they own. And they're transferring their money back to cash.
All right. We've been on the line with Phil Davis of Phil's Stock World, giving us some option plays and different ways to look at the market. Phil, thanks a lot. You just great to have you on today. You're a saver. We really appreciate it. We'll have you back on real soon.
Yeah, we'll see if we can make you guys money next month.
All right. I appreciate it, Phil. Go get them.
All right. Thanks for having me. Take care.
All right, 8:57 here. We're going to change things up a little bit today, folks, because of unfortunately of the late start here. So if you guys are still in the chat and have some issues that you want to take a look at here, we can. We're going to stay on past 9 a.m. today for make up for the late start. So Cajun One, Bobby Bid, AG Pennypacker. If there's any issues you guys want to take a look at, please pop in the chat and we'll try and do our technical analysis on it. A couple interesting things that Phil said there. Very, very, very similar to Nick's strategy. You know, the cash secured puts. What you need in those situations is the amount of money in the account. Okay, let's start with Jag Trader here, and I believe SIG is Signet Jewelers, SIG. And before I make any calls on this stock, I want to look at the pre-market trading, and I'm not seeing much there. It's 67.10, folks, and I'll just kind of give you the way Dennis and I break down the stocks for the show, what we're looking. Look at the pre-market action. We look to see if there's any news. Been no news on Pro since September 18th. So that was 10, 12 days ago. So now we can go to our daily charts. And we had a nice run. We had a gap and go after expiration here. Little bit of a pullback from 70 to 65. And now just getting its way back up. My level, I'll just give you one level on the upside here, and it looks like that double top that you had at $70 after you came off the high. Actually, that double top is not at $70. It is at $69.95 and 70 and a quarter. So had the nice follow through off the earnings, pulled back to 65, now running back up to 70. You want to see it take out 70, close out over 70, and keep on going. On the downside here, if you're trying to protect some profits on a swing trade, you can look at the lows here. From the low of this little dip here is being 63.94. Actually, let's call 64 the big number on the downside. You had a low of 64.23, 63.94, and 64.17. And what that tells you is just like a large institution or a large buyer is targeting that whole number of 64. They start nibbling a little bit before they pull their bids. They let it get under 64. Then grab it, and it's on its way back up. Yesterday's high, if you're looking for a shorter-term target, is 67.73. Dennis is popping in here with Tyson Foods. Now, I know we do have some news on Tyson, so let me take it that. I mean, food stocks have really taken it on the chin here. I believe we had either a price target change or upward guidance on this one. Let me look in the analyst ratings here. Dennis did mention on the pre-market show. Boom, boom. Let's look at the price action here in Tyson's Food, TSN. Get a nice dividend with that stock. Nice consolidation here. Mega lows at 65 here. Let's see what's going on in the pre-market. Wow, 71. Definitely got a little bit carried away off the news there. Settling in at 68.60. Looking on the dailies here. I'm still going to see the relevant number here at the high. We are trading above that recent high of the move. The recent high of the move in Tyson Foods was a double top, and that was at 67.50 area. So instead of chasing this thing up $3, I'd wait to see perhaps if it could pull back to that old support or old resistance will act as new support. So see another spot high in that same area, but potential breakout here for Tyson Foods. Let's go to a weekly chart. Looks like a clear breakout over 68 to 70. Just don't know. Buying this stock up $3, a little bit high, a little bit too rich for my taste here. Also, Dennis is putting in here, they raised the guidance significantly. I don't know if it's worth $3 in the stock. AG Penny Packer it is asking about Starbucks. Yeah, keep the symbols coming, folks. We'll stay in. You want you to get your money's worth. Looking at Starbucks here. Let's see if we got anything going on in the pre-market. I see a print at 54.20, hanging out at 54.5. Just eyeballing this chart here. I got to get over 56 here in Starbucks. I think they came down off earnings, major low in the 52 handle. Just bunching up here. But for me, for real clear downside or upside in Starbucks, you want to clear 56.12. That was your high on August 3rd. That was the rebound off the initial plunge off the low. Anywhere under $53, you're going to find buyers. You found buyers in mid-August. You made the low of the move. Actually at 52.58, but then the $53 level just came into play again. So that's your major support, your major resistance at 56 here. Let's move on here to talk. What else do we have to talk about? Cajun One trade ALNY. Now that stock had some great news. I don't know, it was earlier in the week or last week. Good drug news and caught a double top, triple top, but I hope you covered here. I'm not sure what's going on in the pre-market. Let's check out the action there. I mean, there's a seller just under 119, and it hit there 3 times, closed at 118.27. So clear skies ahead here. Maybe some paper at 120, but this had to gap and go and then put in a series of lows. So this stock is looking good in the charts. Moving up a little bit, I see Nike. And let's just take a look at Nike before we go to BBY for Diana Dawn. We have Nike made that low at 51 2 days ago off the earnings report. Dipped under 51 twice in May and June. Also 51 was your level back at the end of last year. So if you're holding on for a swing trade here, anything under 51, you got to maybe consider as a possible stop. Trading at 52.63. What we need to clear on the upside in Nike, it's just sticking out like a sore thumb, is $54. And you can see before the earnings report, several highs in the 54 handle, 54.20, 54.43. And then as it got close to the earnings, actually, 1 day before the earnings report, you had a high at 53.97. So we're looking at 2 numbers here in Nike for the next potential move. $51 as your major support point and 54 as your major resistance here. Now the symbols are rolling in, and we'll go to BBY. That's Best Buy, and the stock had one heck of a run. They didn't like it off the report. 52 is your major support, coming back on the upside. I'll give you a level that you absolutely have to clear for more upside. You got a quad top at the 58.50 level. That was also the high on earnings day, just above that at 58.85. So quite a ways from some major resistance. You are on a nice consecutive run of up days. Let me see what we got here. 1 for 2, 2 for 3, 3 for 4, 4 for 5, 5 for 6. So 5 out of 6 up days. I'm keeping an eye on the that low 56.24, trading down a little bit in the pre-market. Absolutely have to hold that, or I see continued downside here. Your 2-day low is 54.60. Dennis is bringing up some drug stocks here, and I think we got some news on ZGNX. Let me pull up the news here in my trusty Benzinga Pro. And they demonstrated statistical significance and all key secondary endpoints for ZX008. So that stock is getting a nice pop. Let's take a look at CGNX here. See how it's trading. Street leaning the wrong way in this one. Came down to $16.50, under $12. Now your pre-market action Holy mackerel. We hit 43.65 on that one. That's some really good drug news, folks. I don't think we're going to be seeing that pre-market high. Hanging out at $32. So buyers and sellers are settling in here at 32. You can see over the last 45 minutes, an hour, you've had a really tight range after all this activity. So if you're so inclined to trade this issue, 32 is going to be a swing number. Above 32, continued upside. 28, that's where this thing came out of the halt. That was a low print. That could be a target on the downside. Weeklies, let's go to the monthlies here, see what you're doing on a longer term perspective. Haven't been in the $40 handle since since 2014, late 2013. So a lot of people have been holding on to stock for that period of time. Rang the bell, gets anywhere near 40 of that pre-market high. I think if Dennis was still on, I'd say, hey, that pre-market's high is in, or it's going to be the high of the day at 43.65, and he wouldn't take the wager. Moving on, I guess this is bad news for GWPH. We've talked a lot about that stock as in the marijuana sector. Bad news. Spiked this down to $90, but you have rebounded. That's come all the way down from 112 for GWH. If you want to trade that intraday, I can give you just a level to keep an eye on here. Down $14.36. Let me go to my after hours chart here and TradeStation, see what I can come up with. 101.40. That is 101 even. That has been the high since you plummeted down to $90. Still $4, $3 away from that. That's a potential resistance point. You're looking to fill the gap yesterday. You got a long ways to go to 109.50. So good news for ZGNX, bad news for GWPH. Let's take a look. Let's go back up here. Spice is asking about MXIM. Let's take a look at that one. I don't think that's one I've ever have looked at or traded. MXIM. Bunching up here, 47.69. Let's take a look at the dailies. On the verge of a breakout here. You can see you touched $48 back in July, made another run at it in August. Yesterday's high is right here too. This is Maxim Integrated Productions, MXIM. And it's just a nice wall there. It needs to clear 48. You can see some clear upside above 48. I think we have the all-time high in the issue at 49.70, but 34 cents away from a major breakout level in Maxim Group. Also coming out of the chat from DC1, and DC1 is looking at PI and BLK. Now, I think first, let's start with BLK. I think that had a big day yesterday. This is a high-price stock, folks. Hard to trade, 446.65. Another financial here, absolutely on a tear. The monthly chart looks beautiful. The daily chart looks beautiful. Just clearing that high. Let's see if anything's going on in the pre-market. Nah, not much. So 466.65, folks. No resistance above that, the all-time high in BlackRock. If I was trying to protect some profits in this one, yesterday's low in BLK after the gap up, I believe was right at the 440 level. Let's check our low yesterday. Our low yesterday was 439.52. So protecting some profits on this one. You're still $6 away from that level, but making all-time high yesterday, an all-time closing high. It also made the highest low it ever made at 439.52. DC1 is also asking about PI. Let's take a look at this issue. Oh, I'm going to try and pronounce the name in that one. IMPageInc.com. I had a serious beatdown. Not sure what the news, but now coming back up to 42. And let me take a look at pre-market action before I say anything. Trading down a little bit here at 40.58, but that resistance at 42 is very clear here. You hit that on Monday. You hit that on Thursday. Got to get to 42. Now, between 42 and just under 48 is a major gap to fill. But need to get above 42, close 42. On the downside here for PI, I see some good support, but unfortunately, that is not until you get under $38. You have a pair of lows at 37.11, 37.28. So that's your major support here in PI, AG Pen. No, we did not talk to NVIDIA, but we will do that right now. NVDA, the hot stock here, and I know we have some news on that one. NVIDIA, let's check. I think it was a price target change as well. NVIDIA, and we are having it trading up in the pre-market. NVDA. Hot stock, let's see what's the price action is doing. Hit that all-time high at 191.12. Came in, put a nice double bottom here at 170. Actually filled the gap also, so that's your major support. In the pre-market trading up at 179.5. Couple tops to keep an eye on here if you're looking for continued upside in NVIDIA. After coming off that all-time high, you had a double top at 182.70 and 182.31. So currently taking a chance to trade at that area. 180 also is a nice round number, so keep that in mind. But you got a double top, and that was a price target raise from Citigroup. So 914 here, folks. Let me see. I think I've covered just about every stock here in the chat. Thanks so much for sticking around, and we'll be back with you on Monday.